Hey, Joe.
Hey, Marita.
Hey, good morning for you.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you. You are live from America, Albany?
Albany, yes.
Albany.
Or as it used to be called, Fort Orange, because this area was settled by the Dutch. Everything is kill and, Voorhees. So lots of wooden shoes in this area.
Oh, you see, that's where the link is. Now I understand why we are doing this episode. So basically, you are in Dutch County then?
Originally, yeah. And I spend a lot of time hanging out with Dutch. Shout out to Dr. Johan Stolk of the Royal Dutch Marine Corps, close personal friend and co-author on my first couple of books.
That's amazing. So we have a natural connection already based on the country. But we have another connection as well, and that is that we both want to change a certain game. We want to add value. We want to disrupt something for the positive. So we talked about it a little bit before recording this. We were saying like it's basically about transforming past pains into future powers. So Joe, welcome to the show again. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself because no one can do it better than you. The floor is yours.
I don't know about that, but so hi, I'm Joe Templin. I'm the author of the Amazon Kindle #1 release, Everyday Excellence. And I am essentially a human Swiss Army knife and Kaizen expert in that I have a truly eclectic background. I say eclectic as opposed to Renaissance man because I can't draw a straight line even with a ruler. But I have had a variety of experiences and insights and tons of screw ups along the way. Let's make sure that everybody knows about that.
Well, we love
but they have informed and improved me and given me the insight and the impetus to be able to help others, which is ultimately what it is that I do in my mission on this planet.
Amazing. Can you give your mission to me in like 1 or 2 sentences?
I help people. So if you want to boil down my background, my books, my exposures, my experiences in terms of martial arts or running or all the other things, it comes down into the fact that we ultimately have 2 paths in life. And I have been put here to help other people realize that they can live a life of excellence as opposed to convenience.
Amazing. Because this is the topics that we're going to zoom in on today. So this episode with Joe is mainly about excellence and resilience. And what we're doing in the Game Changers United podcast, where we interview the game changers, we deep dive on the topics and we will deep dive on their personal story. We will deep dive on how they transformed their personal story into something powerful for others. And yeah, the only way to learn, and you already said it, Joe, is about the screw ups. We want to know everything about all the mistakes that you made, basically.
How much time do we have to talk about the mistakes?
Yeah, we have 45 minutes, but maybe you and I
have many more mistakes than
that. And I really love the fact that you are focusing so much, that you combine excellence and resilience, actually. So I want to deep dive with you on those topics. So today we are going to talk about you. So who are you? What is your background? What is your business? And we're going to deep dive in your story to get to the deepest lessons that we can share with our audience when it comes to building something that you so powerful that you are doing. It takes a village. I know. I mean, everyone who's doing social entrepreneurship, because that's basically what we are talking about here. We all suffered from our own obstacles and our own things, and we have our own toolbox. And what I would really like for us to do is to create a platform where we can help each other with sharing all these stories to get inspired, empowered, motivated, or whatever it is that you as a fellow game changer need to take the next steps forward. Let's deep dive a little bit in you.
Okay.
Okay.
So where do you want me to start?
So I want to start actually with one thing that you put on your website, and I'm going to read it because this was very interesting. You started your own story at your website, everyday-excellence.com, about the author Joe Templin has led an eclectic life. Enlighten us. What happened?
Okay, so just so that you understand the big influences, my mom was a nun. My mom was a nun, Catholic nun, then later on had 6 kids.
Oh.
All right, and she was an educator. And her favorite saying was the saying from Mark Twain, never let school interfere with your education. Okay, so this is the person who taught me how to shoot guns, how to hotwire a car when I was a little kid, bought me a bug jug, inspired a love of learning in all ways, shapes, and forms. My dad, former Army, built a consulting firm. So he taught us about hard work, about vision, about service, as did my mom, about, being just absolutely excellent in what you do and being able to reach out and improve the lives of others. So I had these 2 influences early on in my life, and then others were added into it over time, like my Taekwondo master, Daniel Grant, like my cello instructor, Herr Doblin, who literally fled the Nazis, came to the United States and founded the Buffalo Symphony, and then was the head of the music department at Skidmore College. So this is an individual who taught me about, focused effort, who taught me about having applied creativity within the constraints, who was, I grew up in a small town. I mean, my town didn't even have a traffic light when I was growing up. That's how small it was.
I recognize that actually. So we have another connection there.
So, I mean, you'd think that place called Greenfield would actually have some open fields instead of all these rocks and trees and hills. But so, Herr Doblin gave me this like worldview early on of there's more and culture. And, this is an individual who spoke like 12 languages, but was down to earth and like pressed his own apple cider, I remember. And had been all over the planet, but yet was able to constantly return home to the simple joys. And so that is something that is still ingrained in me. As I say, you can take the boy off the farm, but you can't take the farm out of the boy. And so I have, in a lot of ways, I'm a simple man. I mean, I just want to be able to do my martial arts and run and write my books and all that. And I was just at a conference, and here I'm meeting with individuals who are world-class leaders in their space, best-selling authors, captains of industry. And to me, it's like, all right, well, we're just going to sit here, we're going to have a beer, we're going to talk and see how I can help you, how you can help me, how we can align our missions to be able to improve the world, and these individuals, no matter how successful, have had struggles. They often don't talk about it, but the people who understand where they came from and what they've overcome and can embrace it can actually become even more powerful and as such have an even greater impact on the world. It is the fake social media, everything's perfect, 500 pictures and filters to get one good one, and my life is awesome and all that. That illusion is creating a lot of difficulties for people in the world because they think that is what reality is like. Life sucks, but we can make it better if we want to embrace the Stockdale paradox from good to great. So it is finding what is important to you, what is meaningful, and being able and willing to work towards it, even on the days that are not good, that makes us human, but also makes us the best people that we can be.
I like that. And Joe, can I ask you, the fact that you are saying like I'm as simple as possible. I want to return to like the simple way of life, of joy, and all the things that you just said. How is your, because you struggled with some, well, challenging physical things yourself that ultimately I think shape you in the way that you are right now, and the perspectives that you have and the things that you are doing. Can you zoom in a little bit on that? Because I think it will be very relevant for our audiences to hear a little bit more about that side of you, so we can really contextualize all the things that we're going to say next.
Sure. So you can see like one of my trophies. This is actually from the first really big tournament that I won 28 years ago, something like that. And over there you can see like a medal from a Ragnar. Ragnar is a 200-ish mile team relay race. And, you know, so I've won international championships. I've competed in the international mountain running championships. I've done ultra marathons. So people look at all that and they're like, oh, you know, you're so incredible. And it's like, I struggle to do all that.
Yeah.
Okay, there's mornings when I get up and I don't want to go for the run or do my taekwondo, or actually right now I'm not allowed to train for another week because of an injury. I had a back injury that completely knocked me out previously. I've been in car accidents that literally I totaled the car with my skull. Good thing I'm Irish, so I'm nice and thick-headed. I used to be wicked spot, but people see all these physical accomplishments that I've had, and they don't realize that I was severely asthmatic as a child.
Yeah.
Okay, I was so asthmatic, I was dead. I flatlined. I came out of my body, saw the bright lights and all that, and I came on back. Boom, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm like this. I burn the candle at both ends and in the middle with a flamethrower, and that I fully utilize every one of the 86,400 seconds we get in a day. And I'm not going to screw around. I'm not going to waste time. I have a bias for action. Maybe I'm too abrasive and too aggressive in some ways, but it's better to commit a sin of omission or a commission than omission. Better to ask for forgiveness afterwards, because it's the only way that you're going to truly be able to live to your potential. But once you understand that, I was from a point where I literally could not breathe. I was dead. Wow. Later on, I started doing taekwondo, and I was not a good taekwondo stylist because I had no physical ability. I had nothing to draw from, but I developed it over time. And I'm not a good runner. I don't look sexy and fleet and like a deer and all that. I look like a broken shambling pirate for the most part. I'm not fast, but I keep going. I don't stop. I overcome. It's sheer willpower in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But that is how we change ourselves. That is how we change the world. We do it even when we don't want to, and we don't stop until we're done. So my good friend, the Royal Dutch Marine, was out cutting down a tree probably 4 or 5 years ago and almost cut his hand off with a chainsaw.
Oh, no.
Okay, goes on in, stitches himself up because, that's what he does. Next day, he's back out there working on bucking up the tree. I'm like, John, why are you doing that? And his response was the same response that I would do. Job wasn't done. So you go and you finish the job. So it is that sort of mindset that has been developed in me over my lifetime, whether it's academics, whether it is martial arts or running or being a special needs parent or writing a book or going on speaking tours or in any way. If you have that attitude that you have a job to do, and part of our life's work is figuring out what that job is. But once you determine that you have a job to do, you don't stop until the job is done. And you put everything that you have, mind, body, and soul, into that. And you basically empty your tank every single day. And then you get up the next day and you do it again. And if it is something that is truly part of your being, something that is ingrained in who you are, it's not work. It's a mission. And you keep going on your mission.
It is. And there's no mission B, huh?
Exactly. And so today's Monday, it was a late a long week last week, didn't get a chance to really relax this weekend, all sorts of stuff, didn't necessarily sleep well last night. But you know what? I got up this morning, it's like, woo, this is going to be fun. This is going to be awesome. I have a chance to do what I'm supposed to do while I was put on this earth to do.
I really love
get a
that you're
chance to
saying
talk
that.
to people and help.
I really love that you're saying that, and especially what you said, the job wasn't done. And I think this is also something that maybe you've even unconsciously experienced when you couldn't breathe anymore, and you felt like, no, it's not done, but I'm not sure how yet. So I think a lot of our listeners are in similar paths. They experience similar things, and we all have our own ways that, or the own things that happen to us, right? Why we are who we are right now. And I think that the thing that you just said, like the job wasn't done, is, and I want to deep dive with you on this. So
Right.
Every episode that we're making, we are just going to deep dive in the conversations. I try to know as little as possible up front, because I really love to do the conversations like this, where we really let it unfold the way it unfolds. So do you think that sometimes you can just know something here at one point, like the job wasn't done, you can know it here, but you don't understand it here? So, and for the people who are only listening to this on the audio, so you can only know sometimes only know something in the head. So understand or know with the brain, but don't understand in your heart yet. This is like the path where I see a lot of my clients and a lot of the people that I talk to, they are in between. So they are in between knowing from the head and understanding from the heart. Can you?
Oh, I see this all the time. So I have a background in financial services, and so I train a lot of people there. And early in their careers, they'll understand intellectually. Okay, the probability of a young individual becoming disabled is approximately 1 in 4, but they don't know what that truly means until they have paid a claim associated with that, or they've seen somebody struggle because they are financially destitute, because they were disabled for 6 months, because they didn't plan ahead. So there is that feeling, and this is also reflected in art in a lot of ways, where it's writing, singing, martial arts, drawing. My Taekwondo master told us decades before Malcolm Gladwell talked about the 10,000-hour rule, that you have to do a technique 100 times to do it, 1,000 times to start understanding it, and 10,000 times to master it. So doing it to the point where you have the intuitive feel around it. And this is one of the things that my cello instructor talked about was, decades and decades ago. He said that, I asked him why he still practiced in his 80s. And he's like, if I don't practice one day, I know. If I don't practice 2 days in a row, the critics know. If I don't practice 3 days in a row, the public knows. And so even in his 80s, when his public performances were, almost non-existent, he still practiced and held himself to that same sort of standard, even at that point. And so that's the reason why I have this cool nonlinear growth curve on the front of the book, because in any aspect of our life, or our entire life in aggregate, we start off and we are completely useless. We're babies, okay? We need somebody else to feed us, change us, protect us, all that. And then we start learning. We pay attention to the environment around us. We start trying things. Watching a kid crawl and then learn to walk. Okay, how many times do they fall down? They pull themselves off, fall down, pull up, fall down, pull up, fall down, fail, 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 fail. And eventually within a couple of months, they're running around and, climbing up and to try and get the cookie jar. So that's the attitude that they have there. And young kids and babies are sponges in terms of knowledge and understanding. And we need to try and maintain that attitude longer in terms of our lives, in terms of seeking out new experiences, new exposures, learning new ideas, challenging ourselves, pushing stuff, being ready to fail and fail until we can succeed. And So when the kid first learns to ride a bike, it takes, I don't know, weeks or months before they really get comfortable with it and then really good with it. If you apply that same concept to whether it's learning a foreign language or picking up an instrument or learning any skill like sales or public speaking or anything like this, we have to do that regular effort on a continuous basis to go from sucking to not being too horrible to being pretty good to being good to eventually being experts in it. And so in the society that we're in now, where people can Google stuff and immediately get the information, where they can find anything, where they can have food delivered to them instantaneously instead of having to work it and produce it like I did growing up on the farm, where the cycle time on everything has been shortened to the point there is no patience and appreciation for having the discipline to do what it takes over an extended period of time to truly get the results. And that's impacted our relationships, that's impacted the business world, that's impacted education. People no longer, and this is me getting on my soapbox like the old man, have this value for doing the hard work over an extended period and that produces excellence.
Yeah, and I love this because for knowing your story, knowing your background a little bit, I think this is the circle that how do you say that in English? How do you say it in English? This is where it makes sense that what you went through and what you are doing right now is connected, because what you do is everyday excellence. This is where you wrote a book about. This is where you want to help people to take small steps every day to keep going and to motivate them not to give up. And I think it's really powerful from where you came from, like not being able to breathe, and your whole background story on how you got here is excellent and is resilience, right?
And it's all little steps. So Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, said that well-being is no small thing, but it's made up of small steps. And it's the little things every day. So for example, we all have to make the choice of what we eat. My Taekwondo master taught us, you dig your grave with your teeth. And if you look here in the United States, over half of the people are obese. Yeah. And it is a choice that they're making to eat the donuts as opposed to eat the healthy food. It's the choice to sit on the couch and watch mind-numbing TV instead of going for a walk or reading a book, or better yet, listening to an audiobook while you go for a walk so that you can multitask and get both those in, because it doesn't seem like a big deal, but 100 calories a day translates into roughly a pound a month.
Yeah. So what you're saying is
12 pounds a year of change, essentially. And it's the tiny little choices that compound and add up. But people are all looking for the miracle pill, or I'm going to have surgery, or I'm going to win the lottery and things are going to be awesome. And it's like, no, you can't count on that. If you win the lottery, that's awesome. Kudos to you. But it's the little things, the small choices to save a couple of dollars here, to not, waste money here, to get off the couch and go for a walk, to, spend 15 minutes every morning, getting up and studying and working out. So you're getting your body and mind going. And if you do that on a regular basis, you make that small allocation on a daily decision, you're going to, over 2 months, see results.
Yeah.
Over
and that's
a year, you're going to see tremendous results.
And that's also, I think, really important thing that you just said is that you will get the reward for yourself, right? I mean, if there was a magic pill and you take it, you don't feel like you've really accomplished something.
You didn't earn it.
Exactly, you don't earn it. You didn't earn it. And the reward that you normally get from eating or whatever it is that you are doing, it's like a coping mechanism. So it's basically what you're saying is by training it every single day, you can create new roads in your mind that will help you create new habits, that will create excellence for you. Maybe also resilience, but also rewarding system that is much more healthier and is designed by you. It's not.
So, for example, I was with a buddy yesterday, and we've known each other, 28, 29 years, and he's like, "You want a beer?" And he knows how much I love my beer and all that. I'm like, "No, I didn't earn it."
Okay.
And he just like, okay, because he's known me long enough to know that that's the way that I am. So, I love cheeseburgers and I love donuts. I haven't had a donut in over a month. Last time I had donuts, it was my cheat day, and it was epic. I had like 10 donuts. That's basically all I ate that day. But, the best beer is that shower beer after working really hard for the entire afternoon, where you're sweaty and dirty and you accomplish things. You earned that. And so when you have that beer, it is the best tasting beer in the world because of what it took to get it. It's like, people can buy medals for marathons or whatever, or race shirts online, but it's when you go and you do the 26.2 miles and it's been hot and nasty and gross, and you put forth that effort and you see that finish line and you feel it and you go across and you're like, that is earned as opposed to given. And so if I were to reach out to your listeners and say, give them one real pearl that they could take away, is focus on earning the rewards because they just feel different.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree. And I was thinking back on one of the moments that I was trying to do the same. So I was with a group, we were cycling for charity in South Africa. So we raised money up front and we were cycling there. I trained like 3 months, and it's nothing compared to all the physical achievements that you had, but I did it. So, and at one point I was like in the 3rd or the 4th day, and it's hot, and it's like, you need to cycle 60 kilometers. And for us, that was a lot. And with mountains and well, everything, with all the impressions that you have, we visited projects, we were like cuddling with these kids. And so there were so many things going on. And I was also going through some personal things myself in that moment. And I remember at like, I think it was one of the last days, I was cycling up this hill and it was really, really, really heavy. But I was like, okay, I'm doing it for, I had the personal reasons that I was there.
Yeah.
And it was like putting it like out there, like in front of me, and cycling towards that. And we were already running late that day. So we already had like a delay of a few hours and we had to drive to the next place, blah, blah, blah. So I was cycling there with this thing in front of me. And then they took me off the road and they said, well, I'm sorry, we are delayed so much. We have to stop, and you have to go back now to the car and we need to drive further. And I was like, no, but it's no. Like, no, no. And I was getting so emotional, Joe. Like I started crying, and I get goosebumps now when I talk about it, because that moment was, for me, it was such a weird thing what happened, because I was really going for something, and I was really wanted that reward in terms of like feeling that I did this for that reason, and someone else was just like taking me out of it. And this was the most unrewarding feeling ever.
Right.
And it's so important to identify for yourself, like, what is the reason? Why am I doing this? And you have to do it for yourself, and you have to put yourself first, and you have to position yourself as the most important thing in your life in that moment, to be able to receive this reward, or even to go after the reward. I think that's where it starts. Like, you need to.
And that reward that you were getting there was no huge ceremony. There was no, trophy. There's no, like late night TV show appearance or anything for it. It is, you're doing this thing where you're serving somebody else and you're making sacrifices and you're becoming a better human being through the entire process, whether it's the training or the ultimate challenge right there, where you have to tap into the reserves and then overcome the obstacles of that moment. But after the fact, you now have these skills, this resilience, this depth of reserve and power that you can tap into for other things down the road as need be. And so it is the act of becoming that is important, because now you are becoming more of a Swiss Army knife in your own self, because you have that resilience that you can tap into, whether something goes wrong with a podcast or in your personal life or things like this. So it makes you stronger and better. And what's going to happen is other people are going to find that attractive. They're going to come to you when they have need, because you can be the source of strength for them and inspiration. And hopefully they can then go on their own version of that cycling journey to become better, so that they can reach out to others. And that is one of the things that I truly believe that we've been put here on this earth to do. And so in the pre-talk, we were talking about reaching 100 million people. My goal is to reach 100 million people and help them understand this concept, help them start challenging themselves, to push their envelope, to become better, so that they can in turn be stronger and more resilient and help others. And we can have these little, almost like nodes or ripple effect.
Yeah, that's
to impact many, many more people.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's basically what we are trying to do, right? We do it every single day. There is no mission B. We already talked about that. Like, this is something that the job isn't done.
Yeah.
So we just keep going.
Just keep going.
Let's just keep going. So
it's not the brash, arrogant, chest thumping, look at me. No, it's the quiet courage of, all right, get up and just do it.
Yeah, it doesn't come from a place of ego. It comes from a place of like enriching and empowering other people. And so one thing that I really would like to talk to you about, because I think it's really important for this topic, is the screw ups, like the lessons and the challenges, because
all the screw ups.
Yeah, I mean, like all this talk about resilience, it's nice, but in the end, we just want to know your screw ups. I mean,
okay,
tell us.
So there's literally so many screw ups. As Thor says in Ragnarok, I make grave mistakes all the time. It seems to work out. That's part of my life, because if you're not pushing to the point where you're going to make a mistake, then you're not forcing growth. If you lift weights, if you don't get to the point where it hurts, where you're fatiguing the muscles, where you're getting to the point of failure, guess what? You're not going to get stronger. So if we just reside in that space of this is easy, you're never going to challenge yourself. You're never going to grow your capabilities. So it's like, okay, I can play around and fight white belts and 10-year-olds, but is that going to improve me as a martial artist? I can write the most basic, boring type stuff, and there might be some commercial success around it, but is that going to challenge me as a writer and force me to become better and ultimately of more service to the world? And so one of the things about screwing up is that you're pushing right at the edge of your capacity at that point. And that is critical to get to that level of your operating at the envelope of your capabilities. And people don't like it because, one, it hurts. I mean, failure hurts. And if you make mistakes, it hurts. And our entire school system is predicated on taking tests and passing. So if you make mistakes, it is considered not good. Now, when you're a little kid, when we were talking about learning to walk, you make mistakes all the time. You fall down, eventually you can do it. Same thing with riding a bike. And this is the entrepreneurial journey, is that you make mistakes all the time. And if they're not fatal, they're fixable.
If they're not fatal, they're fixable.
Yes, that is one of my sayings. So, you might think that it's fatal, but it probably isn't. Because you know what? You've survived before, you'll find a way to survive this. But our school systems are, you only got, 99, you got a couple of wrong, and they focus on mistakes and getting perfect as opposed to making better, more informative mistakes. And so that's the whole idea around science and being an experimentalist is that you make mistakes, but you learn from them and you can hone in on what actually works. Same way as if you're learning to be a marksman or an archer or, hit a golf ball or throw a basketball. You miss, but you miss better. And you learn your process so that you can hone on in and eventually be hitting that mark. And then you try something more challenging, whether it's bigger distance or under more extreme conditions or what have you. And so if you can be comfortable with failing, but failing in a way that you are learning from, that's how you're going to continuously grow. And that's how you get better. So that's the whole idea behind failing and failing often. In terms of actual failures, I mean, I can talk to you about the commercial failures of various books. I can talk to you about, the screw ups with relationships. I can talk to you about, problems, whether it was running, martial arts, things like that. I mean, there's just so many of them. So you got to give me more guidance in terms of.
Well, I think that answers the question already. Like, there is not only one screw up, right? If you can already call it like that. It's the combination of all the things that you go through, the good and the bad and the questionable, that make you where you are right now. And the difference between being in that place here and being better on the other side has to do, if I understand you correctly, has to do with your own excellence, with your own resilience, with your own mindset and your eagerness to make yourself better every single day, and is to take the small steps. And maybe this metaphor that I'm using a lot in my coaching as well is it's the same that you're saying, but in a different way. Is that when you renovate a house, then you always have to do the shitty little jobs first. The things that you don't want to do, the things that no one will ever notice and no one will ever see, but that are necessary to be able to decorate the walls, to put in the new floor. So these are all the invisible steps that are needed.
And sometimes you have to tear things out. So like my old house was 130 years old. It still had active knob and tube wiring in. So we had to go and pull that out and put in something with a much higher capacity to be able to run modern electronics. And it is that tearing out of the old pathways in a lot of ways, the old ideas. And people don't want to do that because it's, as you said, messy. I mean, it's destructive. It takes a lot of work. It's not really visible. It's not appreciated. But undoing bad habits, learning that things that we thought that were correct are incorrect or not helpful or limiting, like with the old wiring, prevent us from being able to do greater things.
Exactly.
And so it is that willingness to look at ourselves and say, this is not working.
Yeah. Or okay?
I met with a friend who's an alcoholic the other day, and he's going through the 12-step program. And the first step in all 12-step programs and in self-awareness in any capacity is admitting that you have a problem or that you're not good enough. So like any athlete who has plateaued at a level and then eventually broken through, has had to have that admission. I'm not good enough at this point. What do I need to do? Do I need to change my attitude? Do I need to change my training and habits? Do I need to change my diet? Do I need to commit more? And then they can break on through. And we have this in personal relationships. We have this in business. We have this in essentially all capacity of our life. But a lot of people get close to that limit and they're like, I'm good.
Can I zoom in on this? Because I think this is very interesting what you're saying, is I am not good at this point. So a lot of people, they have this limiting belief deep down, and I still struggle with it sometimes, like I'm not good enough. And I think we all have it as human, right? I mean, maybe some of us have it more than others. And I am not good enough is very big. I am not good enough at this moment, or at this
I'm not good
point.
enough yet.
Yet one word can make a difference in how you perceive yourself, and also gives immediately opens the door for improvement.
Do you want to talk about the why behind that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's do it.
So from a psychology point of view, we've got our crocodile brain, the oldest part, the fight or flight system. We've got our midbrain, which is all relationship, which is from the early stages of humanity when we had to see friend or foe. And so it is emotional. And 80+% of our brain capacity really is this subconscious. Okay. And then the neocortex, the front part of the brain, which is our highly analytical component, it's really what makes us human as opposed to chimpanzees or these other organisms, is very logical, but it is not truly in control. The way that Robert Greene, the author of the 48 Laws of Power and these other books, likens it, is that the subconscious is the horse and the neocortex is the rider. So our rational capacity can help control things, but it is still much more powerful than the stuff below the surface. So when we tell ourselves, I can't do this, then the 80+% of the brain is like, nope, can't do it, limiting belief. But when we say, I can't do this yet, that 80% starts trying to figure out the solution. Yeah. And so there are so many stories of great scientists who were at an impasse, and they'd go take a walk, or they'd take a nap, or they would put the problem aside and come back to it later. And the subconscious was then working on ways to solve that. So whenever I get to the point of being at an impasse, and other people can call that failure, I just call it a stopping point for them. What happens is you go work on something else. You go for a long run, you cook dinner, you take a nap, you do something else, and you're like, I can't figure this out yet. And you let the rest of the brain work on it because it is so powerful that it ultimately can then produce the result that we're looking for. So telling ourselves, I can't do this yet, is setting ourselves up for the future failure. Might not succeed at that moment, but if we're willing to listen to our mind and body, then we will be able to discover the way.
Yeah, and I think this really also resonates with one other thing that I was publishing a little bit about, and that is that time should be your best friend. So time should be added in everything you do, in your business strategies and everything. And time is basically a made-up concept by people to understand the hours, to understand the minutes, to frame our existence, let's say, in matter of time. But for the brain, or for the soul, or for the heart, time doesn't exist. So basically, it doesn't matter if it's going to happen now or in 5 minutes. If you put your mind to it, it will happen. But you need to detach yourself from the outcome of having to want it fixed right now, because that's definitely not going to work.
Exactly. And in fact, if you're focused on, I need this now, you're actually interfering with your flow. You're making it so that you can't hear or see the answer. One of the things about meditation, whether it's sitting there, saying Om and closing your eyes, or the meditation of sailing a boat like Einstein did, is that it quiets the mind. And so those loosely connected neurons, those synaptic connections that get overwhelmed with the noise and the chaos and everything that's going on with us, can't be listened to, essentially. So quieting everything and not focusing on what you're trying to do, just letting it go, allows it to actually happen.
Yeah. And it sounds so simple, huh? It sounds like something like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Why don't we do this the whole day?
It's incredibly simple, but it's not easy.
And what is the reason, or what is the secret? Let's say, what is the secret for people to, even though it's so simple, but yet, if we are being really honest, we don't do it every day. So how can we start training ourselves more to become more excellent in this part? That it's a very important part of improvement.
So this is an interesting question, because it is a discipline of mind and spirit, but discipline is one of those things that carries over into all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're disciplined enough to make your bed, or to like clean the utensils after you use them to cook, it prevents chaos from spilling in. And chaos eats up brain capacity in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So those of us who are ADHD, we like chaos because we get lots of cross functioning things. But because I function well in chaos, I need to have even more discipline around certain things to have control and not have to waste mental or physical energy around. So having the discipline to be able to say no to all the extraneous things, whether it's requests to go do things like go to the club and stuff like that, or it's the discipline to turn off the internet so that you can focus on the task at hand for the next 20 minutes. If it's the discipline to sit there and meditate, or to go for the walk and not look at your phone for a little bit. So it is having the discipline to cut out the extraneous, even if it's just for little periods of time, that then allow us to be able to do that for more extended periods of time and do it on a deeper basis. So one of the things that I recommend people do is they do a weekly fast of different capacities. And eventually you can push that to doing a month at a time. So for example, for 1 week, no fast food. You can do everything else in your life the exact same, but if you like fast food, cut it out for a week.
Okay, so this is interesting. I want to deep dive on this one, because I think this would be really helpful for our audience. And I think like the people that would benefit most from this information are people that currently experiencing some chaos in their lives or in their business, right? So these are people that they are not in the situations anymore, but they overcame certain things, or they are like in the tail.
And so they've got the lingering effects in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
They've got that unresolved trauma, as Freud would talk about, that can pop forward as, new forms of bitter fruit. So choose a small area to exert control.
Yeah, for 1 week.
Okay, for 1 week, because we can do anything for 1 week.
Yeah.
So for 1 week, don't drink any alcohol.
Yeah. This is an interesting one, actually, because I stopped drinking alcohol 2.5 months ago. And because I really needed to break this habit for myself. I really felt like it was not serving me anymore. And also the discipline of doing that. And if you are used to do that, like I know a lot of my clients and a lot of my audience, we are used to celebrate after a day of hard work. We celebrate with wine. But we also, when we have a stressful day, or whether it's wine or eating or whatever it is. So I decided, like, no, for me, it's going to be the difference between being good and being great. And I want to be great. So I need to start breaking patterns.
And so I need to change my thinking and my habits.
So, but instead,
and it comes from the little changes.
And Joe,
so,
I want to ask you this, because this is really interesting and I'm really curious to hear your opinion. So what I experienced myself, and this is with wine, and again, it can be with anything. So in the beginning, when I didn't want to do it anymore, I was focusing on what I would lose. So people tend to focus more on what they lose instead of what they will gain.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Is that something that you see as well?
Because
I transformed
the mind is programmed, and there's all sorts of psychological studies around this, that loss impacts us like 4 or 5 to 1.
Yeah.
So I'm giving this up hurts more than I'm gaining this. So you need to have something that is 5 times, 8 times, 10 times more powerful of what you're getting to offset that perceived loss. Because that's part of the way that the mind works. So, giving up processed sugar for a week. We can do that for a week. And then after that week, you can go back to it. But what's going to happen is, you're not as interested. So you won't consume nearly as much. So taking a week of no TV, and then when you come back to TV, you're going to watch less of it. Taking a week break from social media and then coming back to it, you're going to participate in it less. So giving things up for a short period of time basically reminds us that we've become overly reliant on it.
Yeah, and that we are absorbing it. So what you just said about social media. So last week, I just came back from Indonesia. So I was there for my work to find and empower fellow game changers, and this was in a spiritual community with a high priest, and was super super interesting. And I will share more on it later, and I'm going to interview him as well for the podcast. Yeah, it's amazing. And when I came back, I also had to travel like 34 hours. You were just telling me you had to travel that much as well. And I was like, you know what, I cannot do it. I'm producing content every week, and I deliver high quality content because I think it's really important, and it really fits the way how I do business. And but I just didn't have the time. I really had to like process all the things that happened there, and in a good way. And so after this week, actually today, I started again, and now it's different than 2 weeks ago. Even this 1 week of break made me. I feel like I have more distance to it, and not that I don't have.
You have clarity around.
Tell me.
So taking a break from anything for a week makes us appreciate it more when we come back to it. So cycling through, giving up things for a week at a pop, and then coming back to it allows us to be able to control our impulses around it, to appreciate it more. And so it's like if you travel for a week and you come back to your own bed, it feels better.
Yeah.
Right? If you, your own shower feels different after a couple of weeks away on the road. So starting with 1 week, and then you can extend it for a month. So this is one of the things that I've done in the past is, okay, a month of no alcohol, a month of every day I'm going to do 50 push-ups in the morning in addition to the other stuff I do. A month of, no sugar, a month of no fried food, a month of this. And then when you come back to it afterwards, you have a little bit and you're like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, and it makes it accessible as well. So one of the other things that I need to think about, and I really love how this conversation is going, and the brain is so associated, right? So one of the things that you're saying is make it small, make it accessible for yourself, because this is where you can achieve excellence, but but it also makes it not too big for you, because when it is too big, like when you would say like, I need to change my whole health in 1 week or 1 month, it is too big. Your brain will think like, you know what? No, I don't get this. So we're not going to do this. And one of the things that I'm thinking about now is, a little bit background. So I went on a transformational journey myself in the last 2 years. So where I could, I lived in different places. I was being trained as a public speaker, and I was processing some personal losses for myself that I experienced. And I really felt the need to become better myself and to be able to give even more to the people that I work for and that work with me. So I experienced some personal losses that I'm really honest about in the first episode, actually, from Tesla to Tanzania. But when I went on this transformational journey, it was like, oh my God, I need to process, I need to grieve, and those words were so big and that I couldn't handle it in my brain. Like, okay, but I don't know where to start. And I think a lot of people recognize the fact that sometimes things are so overwhelming. So what I really like is that you make it in smaller pieces. And one of the metaphors that I use myself is actually when I was in Spain walking on my 7-kilometer walk, and I was thinking about how am I going to do this? And all of a sudden I saw this container ship leaving the harbor, and with all these containers on it. So I started to think like, what if all my issues or my things were a separate container? So the more containers, the heavier it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same in your life and business. So what if every container, I will identify the container and I will start unloading them one by one. So I'm going on this journey and I'm going to the next harbor and I'm going to take up the first one. The thing that I did wrong was I put the most heavy ones on top. So like things about like, what am I going to, yeah, exactly. So so logistics is not my expertise. So I redesigned, so I put them in different places again. I literally
rearranged the ship.
I rearranged the ship.
And this is a great analogy. I love this.
Thank you.
Because it's the little bits, so
yeah, and it made it very clear as well to, okay, let's say we have the container, let's say healthy habits. Yeah, whatever it means for you. So if you have healthy habits, you have physical things, you have the business containers, you have all the way you want it. But then per container, you can also start identifying, okay, where am I now? Where am I going? And what do I need for this specific container to unload or unpack? Or so it makes it so much easier for yourself to allow yourself to work on them, because you have a system.
And you're taking the littlest possible bits. This is one of the things James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits is, don't try and change the entire world. Change the little bits, small, sustainable things. So for like your health, if it's 15 minutes a day of going for a walk in the morning, that is a great start. I was coming back from a back injury after my first ultra marathon. And so I couldn't go and run 10 miles. I couldn't even run a mile. I couldn't even walk 500 feet, actually, at one point. So I got up and walked for 2-3 minutes. And then I do another 2-3 minutes a couple hours later. And that 2 or 3 minutes became 5 minutes. That 5 minutes became 10 minutes. And then that 10 minutes became jogging for 2 minutes and walking for 5 minutes. And then after several months of building back up, I was able to do a 100-kilometer run again.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so it's not, you have this huge vision, like you said, taking everything off the ship, but you can't just dump the ship and pour everything into the harbor. That's not a good thing. You do it piece by piece, and little by little. And that's how we achieve success or excellence in any capacity, is the little bits, and then a little more, and then a little bit more.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And this is the same with in the gym as well, right? With the weight and everything. But it's again, sometimes you think this is so simple. This makes so much sense. But if you really look at your life and business, are you really doing that? Are you really pushing yourself? Like I also think there's a difference between people who are in a certain situation and they are forced to do it, or people that
Yeah.
are already past that one and have a conscious decision of if you're going to settle for where you are right now, or you're going to fight for where you want to be. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about as well, and I'm aware of our time because I think we can talk for like 2 hours.
Yeah, we can keep going.
I don't know how much time you have. Do we have a certain time that I need to take in consideration, or?
I actually have a lot of time this morning. I dedicate extra time. But if you want to like get back together again in a couple of weeks and we can continue the conversation, I'm all for that.
Well, maybe we can. I think it's very interesting, but I also feel like we are creating so much value right now. So one of the things that you said in our conversation, and a lot of people don't know this, but we always do like a selection for the guests. So you filled in this form and you shared more about who you are and the legacy that you want to leave behind. And we're going to talk about that in a bit as well. But one of the things that you mentioned there, to the question, what was your biggest challenge when you began this journey? And you said, and I wrote it down, where is it? Unconscious incompetence, right?
Yep.
And I think this is something worth to deep dive in as well, that I feel like a lot of people maybe don't even know, or they think they are incompetent to do, or they don't even know what they could achieve when they would take these little steps.
Right. So unconscious incompetence is we don't know what we don't know. So it's like when somebody walks into a martial arts facility for the first time, right? And yeah, they've seen movies and stuff like that. So they've got a little bit better idea now than they did 35, 40 years ago when it was this just complete foreign world to them. But when somebody first walks into a martial arts facility like judo, I know it's big in the Netherlands. So somebody walks on in and they have no clue what judo could even be. And then all of a sudden they're seeing people throwing people through the air and folding clothes with the people inside them and doing all this stuff. And they're like, whoa. Mm. And so at that point, they move from that unconscious incompetence, having no clue, to suddenly they are consciously incompetent. They're seeing what other people are doing. They're like, wow, how the hell do I learn how to do that? It's like the first time you hear incredible music, or the first time you see somebody paint or cook or all these things, all of a sudden your eyes are open and you're like, that is cool. That is awesome. And then starts the process of learning how to do it. And that is the long, slow part. That's the first part of the nonlinear growth curve, where you're putting in tons and tons of effort and you're not necessarily seeing much results. But you can, because you're starting from the point of zero. Peter Thiel's book is called 0 to 1, because that first step is infinite growth. Literally, it's the hardest. So when the beginning martial artist actually learns how to throw a punch, their first punch, their first kick, they get direct feedback and improvement. And if you look in the grand scheme of things, it's incredibly tiny, but they are getting the feedback, yes, I can do this. And then they take the next tiny step and the next tiny step. And eventually, if they stick with it, which is the big thing, because people give up because it's hard to do this, okay? It's simple, but it's hard. Mm-hmm. And it's simple to not do it also. And that's the reason why people give up. It's simple to eat healthy today. It's also simple to not eat healthy and have the cupcakes, okay? It is simple to stay sober today. Just don't drink. But it's also simple to not do it today. And as my friend says, most important day is always today? Do you do what you need to do today? And so having this balance of current focus and long range vision, being able to use both simultaneously, that's how you get in that balance point where you are pushing yourself, but it's sustainable. And so current, what I need to do today, what's the big vision? And that's how you go forward. And eventually you look back and you're like, wow, look how far I've come.
Exactly. You don't always notice it in the moment, right? That you never know that you're growing. It's always right. Looking back and then you realize it. And it's really funny. You said like, it's simple, but it's hard. And I have this favorite expression is saying, easy decisions, tough life or hard life, and hard decisions, easy life.
Exactly. I mean, in any situation, we have two choices. We have the hard choice or the convenient or easy choice.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to smoke that cigarette.
Yeah.
And you feel good. You get the direct feedback. Oh, you get the nicotine rush and everything feels good. It's easy to eat the cupcake. Oh, it tastes so good. I get the sugar rush and, you know, the dopamine hit and all that. It's easy to text somebody that you really shouldn't be texting at that point.
Oh, we've all been there as well.
Oh, yeah. Or to play the video game instead of...
Still owe us a screw up, but just saying.
You know, but, you know, it felt good in the moment.
Yeah.
Or you can do the thing that doesn't feel quite so good, is harder but better. Going out and running in the rain. And I hate running in the rain. But I do it knowing that it's going to suck in the moment because it's going to make me better.
Yeah.
You know, the pushing yourself in the gym, the eating the healthy food that doesn't taste quite as good because you're in training for something, the studying when you don't feel like it, when all your friends are going out and having fun. Okay, those harder choices right now lead to much better outcomes overall.
And if we zoom in on the entrepreneurial group, let's say the audience, so I think this is very valuable for them because especially when you are on a mission, like you and I, we are on a mission to create a better world. Like we want to help people, and we all have our own programs and tools and ways on how we do that. But we also have our own struggles, and we also experienced, and mainly in the beginning, it's like when you want to open like this piece of tape and you just cannot get the first,
Yeah.
And shit. And I know that a lot of people are in this situation where they want to open this tape and they just cannot seem to find the beginning. And it takes a freaking village.
Yeah.
And
you're pulling at it, and then like it partially tears, and you're like, crap, and then you figure. But
exactly.
Then with a little bit of work, you get it going, and then you just have to keep it going to be able to pull the tape all the way out.
Exactly.
But it's all that hard work up front that people don't want to do.
And so what
people
would be
want it easy. They want to, put together the code over a weekend and have their company bought for $2 billion, as opposed to saying, all right, it's going to take lots of work and we got to keep working on it every single day. And it's going to take months before we start even getting customers. And it's going to suck. And I'm going to be sleeping on the couch and eating ramen. But you know what? It's the right thing because I'm building something of significance.
Yeah, and this is really important because even though you are right now in a situation where you feel like you want to give up, or you feel like you just cannot really get the tape open, you cannot open the tape. It's so important to think back to why did you start this in the first place? Like this. I know why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. You know the things, why you do the things that you're doing. And this is exactly what I want to create with the podcast as well, is to help and to motivate people that are currently feeling like maybe they want to give up, to remember why they started in the first place. There's always a reason why you wanted to do what you are trying to do.
As Friedrich Nietzsche said, if a man has a strong enough why, he can overcome any how. If it's that important. So I've got a friend who's a firefighter, Tommy the firefighter. Okay. And he is working with new firefighters. And he's like, all right, we've got a burning building here. There's people inside. There's kids inside this burning building. How do you get inside? Go through the door. Door is steel, can't get through it. I go through the window. All right, there's a fire behind the window. You can't go through the window. I'm going to cut a hole in the wall. I'm going to knock this down. Why are you so committed to getting inside? Because there's kids in there that we need to save. If you have that attitude as an entrepreneur, if you have that attitude in your relationship, if you have that attitude in anything that you care about, that you will, as Hannibal said, find a way or make a way.
Because the job isn't done.
Because the job isn't done. Exactly.
I love that. I love it. And I really amazing, because I already feel like I'm inspired again and getting new energy from you. So thank you, Joe. It's really amazing, and it makes it's like a good bridge to your legacy, because if you could pinpoint it down to 2 or 3 things, like based on this whole conversation that we had, what would be the legacy that you want to leave behind, or you are going to leave behind?
So it comes down to the fact that, life sucks in a lot of ways. I mean, there's horrible things. There's always going to be chaos. There's going to be things beyond our control, but we can make it better. And we make it better through what we do, both in terms of our thoughts and our actions. So it's our attitude. Oh, you know what? Plane canceled again. Oh, this is, happened beyond my control. Just deal with it. But doing everything within your power to improve the situation. So I've got kids, and my 15-year-old, we were working on something, literally digging a ditch or whatever. And it took all day because of the roots and the rocks and everything, but we finally finished it. And so, I rewarded him with chocolate milk, which is how he wants to be rewarded and everything. I'm like, you did a good job. And he's like, I worked like a Templin. And I'm like, yes, you did. And that's what he wanted, he wanted the attaboy, essentially, yes, you are doing what you need to do, and I am proud of you. And we look for that externally. Eventually we can get internally, but he now has that standard of, this is what I do. Job wasn't done. You work until you complete it. And so he's now got that internalized attitude. So occasionally getting the pat on the back and, the chocolate milk and, the ice cream and reward for it is good, because it further reinforces it. But the internal superstructure is now built for him to have success.
Internal superstructure. I like that. I need to write it down in the meantime. So one last question, Joe, because we can keep talking for hours, I know. When is your job done?
Since my job is improving the world and pushing myself to my absolute limits, it'll probably be done after I'm dead and I'm sitting there in the big pub in the sky having my Guinness with my godfather, and he says, good job, kid.
Good job.
At that point, and my job is done in terms of what I can do, but I would have created the tools and the guidance. It's for other people to pick them up and use them at that point.
Yeah. So you would create it. I think we lost a little bit of connection. So you would have created the tools and the guidance for 100 million people to become the best version of themselves by taking small and actionable steps every single day to become better.
Everyday excellence.
Everyday excellence. Thank you so much, Joe. Is there something that you feel like you need to add or want to say?
Go to my website, go to everyday-excellence.com. Every single day I put up new information so people can get the book and all that sort of stuff. But there are new insights, new tools, new feedback every single day that I create there for people to utilize to help themselves get better.
That's amazing.
Be
And this is
excellent
also the
and
place
grow
where
to
you
it.
can buy the book Everyday Excellence, and where you can read more about all you can read more blogs, and you can also find links to other podcasts as well. So Joe, stick around with me for a little bit after I pushed on put the recording out. Sometimes I get lost in translation, because I want to thank you again personally as well. For now, this was the episode with Joe Templin, and I will put all the information we will put in the post, including the website. And Joe, thank you again so much, and we will speak in a little bit.
Thank you, my friend.